so much, Apur, for taking
Thank
your
you,
time
Suparna.
and spending some time with me this wonderful morning. First things first, what does entrepreneurship mean to you?
So entrepreneurship for me is having the courage to back an idea.
Okay.
It could be your idea, it could be somebody else's idea, that doesn't matter. You might not even be the first on that idea, even that doesn't matter. But having the courage to go ahead, back an idea and see it through.
Right.
It's a lot of people think there is a blueprint for entrepreneurship and you start and you have all the answers. The way I like to think of it is you're jumping off a plane and building a parachute on the way down.
Right.
You will never have all the answers.
Right. So how has this become a buzzword? I think when we were growing up, I saw my aunts and uncles and family, they all had small businesses, and suddenly there's this buzzword about startup and all of that.
Entrepreneurship.
How did that come about?
So couple of things. If you go back 10, 20 years ago, the cost of capital was very high.
Okay.
The resources required to start a company were prohibitive.
Okay.
You had to set up a factory, internet wasn't very prevalent. I think what has really happened is people have realized that often you can set up a business very frugally. You can start out of a Chayo's or a Starbucks.
Right.
You can register a domain name for 200 rupees.
Correct.
The cost of starting a business has really crashed. So the cost of failure has gone down.
Okay.
Also, the tolerance for failure is going up every next year.
All right.
And you see a lot of people talking about failure resumes.
Right. Right.
And that's the new swan.
Yeah. In
Right.
fact, yesterday we met up with Ankur and he floated a failure resume in terms of the number of times that he has failed
Absolutely.
and finally been wherever
Absolutely.
he is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you mentioned the idea, the courage to back an idea. You as an investor, what do you look for in an idea?
So I look at three things when I'm thinking about an idea. Is there a product market fit?
Okay.
So an idea by itself is not enough.
Okay.
Is there a product market fit? Is the size of the problem the idea is solving large enough?
Right.
There is no use putting extraordinary talent behind a small idea.
Okay.
That doesn't excite me. It's required. A lot of people do it, but that's not what personally excites me.
Okay.
And finally, what is the quality of the team?
Okay.
Because your product, service, your business idea will keep evolving.
Right. Right.
You will keep getting new challenges.
Right.
But if you have a very high quality team, that's what gets you there.
So team is extremely important
Extremely
as far
important.
as this is concerned.
And
Okay.
I personally don't look at a single founder company.
Right.
For me, that's a strict no-no.
Right. Do you think it's important for the DNA of an idea to have a certain kind of impact? I'm not talking about the idea to have social impact or gender equitable and things like that, but the very value system. Because the kind of role models that we're creating, I think somewhere down the line, they're not really the right kind of role models that we should have for our children.
Absolutely. You've asked an age-old question, value creation versus creating value.
Correct.
A lot of startups in India are basically selling stuff on internet.
Right.
Putting it very crudely, that's their
Correct.
business model.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you, whether it's generating employment, which is much needed in India, so that we don't increase the divide between haves and have-nots,
Right.
or solving core problems in the economy.
Right.
There are massive opportunities in India today.
Right.
The government is very proactive, some fantastic schemes. There's a lot of openness and vibrancy in the economy.
Right.
So our entrepreneurs really taking advantage of that, becoming role models. And according to me, a role model is someone who, at the cost of personal loss,
Right.
or shows a lot of personal sacrifice to back that idea and take it through.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't see much of that because as far as the raising of capital and monies are concerned, that works very well as far as the founders are concerned. But when the going gets tough, I think the pink slips are handed out.
I think to be very candid, I don't think per se there is anything wrong in giving a pink slip,
Okay,
because the business will go through ups and downs.
sure,
And you can't bet the business and many people who depend on it
right,
for few people.
Right.
There is nothing wrong. I think it should be done very humanly.
okay,
You should offer outplacement services. You should give as much as lead time as you can. And you should do it with a human heart.
right.
I think
okay.
that's more important. And also, you should not be whimsical about these things. So, some of the horror stories which you hear
Yeah,
have happened because of poor management,
right,
because of inefficient cash burn rates,
right,
no clear path to profitability.
sure.
That should be avoided.
So according to you, what would be the 3 dysfunctions of a team for any setup to go wrong?
I think the first is lack of trust.
Okay,
Often you will not have time to align people.
okay,
In a larger enterprise, in
Right.
a $8, $10, $20 billion enterprise,
Correct.
you have many people and a lot of time often to align people.
okay,
in startup entrepreneurship, often you will not have time to align people and you will be taking decisions.
Okay.
Do your co-founders, investors, and people trust you? So the
Right.
first dysfunction is lack of trust.
Lack of trust. Right.
And how do you build trust, which allows you to take decisions and speed?
Okay.
It's okay, you will get some decisions wrong, but were they taken with a good intent? Did they have solid assumptions? The second is fear of conflict.
Okay.
I think a lot of people think it is very, very important not to get into conflict situations,
Right.
to be very consensus driven,
Right.
for all the meetings to be very pleasant. And this fear of conflict often leads to suboptimal decisions.
Okay. So lack of trust and fear of conflict. And the
Yes.
third one?
Third one, according to me, is lack of commitment.
Okay.
Often what happens is when you raise a lot of funding or you see early success, some people start mentally checking out.
Right.
They think the journey is almost done.
Right.
We've raised funding, we've raised $100 million
Sure.
or $25 million, and the journey is almost done.
Right.
And the commitment levels dip. I've met founders, including in VC-backed fundies, who have said that, I'm happy growing at 20% now. We've raised funding. It's good. 20% is good enough. The delta keeps becoming smaller. The appetite keeps becoming smaller. So that commitment, and employees can sense it. Like animals can sense fear,
Right.
employees can sense a lack of commitment.
Going just by statistics, it's easier for ventures or startups to get their Series A funding going as far as angel investors are concerned and all of that. But when they come to a certain second level, it becomes all the more difficult. What do VCs look for at that level?
I think what is really required is whatever money you've raised in the past,
Right.
have you used it efficiently? The second is, have you really created exponential traction using that money?
Okay.
And third is, do you have continuity in the winning team? At least that's what I think VCs should look at. You raise money pre-seed stage, then you raised it at a seed stage, then you
Right.
raised pre-series A,
Right.
then you raised series A, and now you are at a series B.
Correct.
So you've already done between 2 to 4 rounds of funding.
Right.
Micro funding, a little more macro, series A. Very, very important to show VCs that you've used the funding efficiently.
Okay.
Second, very important to show you've created exponential traction, non-linear traction using their money.
Okay.
And third is you still have that winning team which will take it ahead.
Excellent. All right. So, in various stages, Series A, Series B, and whatever, pre-seed and seed
Yeah.
and all of that, what would you look for? Growth or profitability?
A lot of people think it's either or. And they think the only way to grow is not be profitable. I think it's a false conundrum.
Okay.
I'm a Marwadi, so the only thing which I understand is making money. So you can have lower levels of profit, but I think the focus should be on profitable growth.
Okay. So, scalability for you is extremely important.
Extremely important, but not at the cost of profits.
Okay.
If you actually think of it, cancer is also kind of growth.
Right.
So all kinds of growth are not good.
Right.
You have to be profitable. There could be years where you're spending more on SG&A, on acquiring customers, where your profitability levels are a little lower. But I think it's important to remain in the black.
So, if you were to map or compare the startup ecosystem, India versus the West, what are the advantages or disadvantages according to you?
So let me first talk about the advantages in India. I think the advantages in India right now is there is a massive consumer class which is only growing every year.
Right.
There is massive awareness about entrepreneurship, which is very good because more and more youngsters are seeing it as a viable career option. We are sitting on a massive war chest of funding, which VCs have still not deployed.
Right.
So by some estimates, $20 to $25 billion of funding is sitting, waiting to be deployed in India.
Wow, 20 to 25 billion dollars, is it?
So that's a massive amount of funding which is still there waiting to be deployed. Waiting for the right ideas, right founders, huge opportunity. Fourth, amazingly proactive government. They are trying to sort logistics issues, GST, trying to move towards a more digital economy. A lot of right steps waiting to be fructified, but a lot of right early steps in increasing entrepreneurship.
On the contrary, some people would say that it's very tough to do business in India. And that is the reason why you have such a strong private ecosystem in terms of mentors and angel investors that help young blood.
So what I would say, Suparna, is every next year, every next month, every next week, it's becoming easier to do business in India.
Okay.
We have moved a long way from almost a dysfunctional economy 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Right.
Uh, are we absolutely top notch in the world? No. I would be very honest enough to admit that. Are we becoming better? Yes. And the problems are also opportunities. So today there are a lot of issues in India which you can solve. So you can see it as a glass half full or half empty.